Setting the stage. AI as strategic power. Artificial intelligence is no longer just technology, it's a central element of 21st century power. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, strategic competition over foundational technologies like AI is reshaping national security priorities. U.S. policymakers see AI leadership as critical to economic and geopolitical influence against rivals such as China and Russia. Export controls. Weaponizing economics. In 2025, the U.S. expanded export restrictions on advanced AI chips and related technologies. According to official reports, export caps would bar countries of concern such as China and Russia from receiving critical AI hardware, while exempting close allies. These curbs target GPUs that power the world's most advanced AI models. Global response. China's opposition. China has publicly condemned U.S. export controls, calling them harmful to global trade and innovation. According to Global Times, Beijing argued that restricting AI chip exports will damage enterprise interests worldwide and accelerate Chinese self-sufficiency in AI hardware and software development. Smuggling and enforcement challenges. Despite sanctions, restricted AI GPUs often find their way into closed markets. According to Reuters reporting on enforcement patterns, Chinese firms have used shell companies in Southeast Asia to access high-end semiconductors prohibited under U.S. export controls. This reveals cracks in the sanctions regime and enforcement complexity. Shifting supply chains. Self-reliance. China is actively pushing domestic AI infrastructure, aiming to reduce dependence on U.S. technology. A recent report shows that Beijing instructed major tech companies to stop importing NVIDIA chips and barred foreign chips in critical infrastructure projects, driving investment into local alternatives like Huawei and SMIC. Loss of market share. Export controls have reshaped global chip markets. According to NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, U.S. restrictions forcing limits on advanced chip exports to China cut NVIDIA's China market share from nearly 95% to effectively zero. Huang said this dramatic drop has occurred as sanctions prohibit shipments of high-performance AI chips to Chinese customers. Economics of export controls. According to analyst data, the U.S. restrictions on AI chip exports have cost NVIDIA significant revenue. A study found China accounted for roughly 25% of NVIDIA's data center revenue in 2023, with losses in 2025 from halted exports projected around $5.5 billion. These controls aim to limit AI compute diffusion, but also risk hurting U.S. firms financially. China's domestic response. Despite export barriers, China accelerated its own AI hardware capacity. Research shows U.S. export controls spurred Beijing to invest heavily in domestic AI infrastructure, including a national AI fund and expanding data centers, while seeking autonomous and controllable systems. By mid-2024, China's share of global AI computing power was around 15% versus the U.S. at 75%. Smuggling and enforcement issues. According to U.S. officials, enforcement gaps persist. Reports indicate Chinese companies use shell entities in Southeast Asia to obtain restricted AI chips, potentially evading U.S. export rules. These illicit flows highlight the difficulty of completely preventing sensitive technology from reaching controlled markets and complicate the sanctions regime. Narrowing performance gaps. Data shows that China has partially compensated for hardware restrictions by optimizing algorithms and software. A report found that by late 2024, benchmark comparisons on large language models showed U.S. China performance gaps dropping to single-digit percentages, indicating that open-source innovation and efficient models reduce the reliance on frontier hardware. Export controls tighten. Allies involved. In 2024-25, the U.S. expanded semiconductor export controls far beyond China, adding 140 Chinese entities to the entity list and broadening the foreign direct product rule, affecting AI chips, tools, and high-bandwidth memory. According to a Center for Strategic and International Studies report, these steps tighten global AI technology flows and increase scrutiny on allied suppliers. U.S. strategy and supply chain impact. According to a geopolitical briefing, The United States now categorizes destinations for advanced AI chips into tiers: allies with open access, adversaries like China and Russia barred, and over 100 nations requiring licensing. This policy aims to preserve U.S. competitive advantage while shaping global AI alliances and influence. Economic winners and losers in the chip war. Analysis shows export sanctions create distinct market shifts. U.S. chipmakers such as NVIDIA and AMD faced lost revenue and share, while Chinese firms increased domestic production partnerships. Concurrently, non-U.S. suppliers in Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Europe saw increased demand as China sought alternatives to restricted technologies. Loopholes and global enforcement gaps. Despite controls, firms exploit legal gaps. According to research, Chinese organizations have bypassed restrictions by using cloud services in Malaysia and Singapore to access U.S. AI chips indirectly. Investigations revealed transshipments and regional cloud deployments complicate enforcement, challenging the efficacy of sanctions. Accelerated Chinese self-reliance. According to ID TechX research, U.S. chip export controls, which included tools and software beyond hardware, drove China to boost local semiconductor innovation. By adding restrictions in late 2024 and beyond, China expanded domestic capabilities, intensifying investment into indigenous chip ecosystems to reduce dependency on foreign tech. Military applications and strategic risk. According to a Center for a New American Security report, advanced AI chips are critical to autonomous weapons, battlefield surveillance, and cyber warfare. Limiting exports to China is intended to slow their military AI programs, reducing potential global destabilization from AI-enabled warfare. Huawei case study. Domestic pivot. Huawei's AI ambitions were directly impacted by U.S. sanctions. According to South China Morning Post, Huawei shifted to domestic chipmakers such as SMIC to continue AI research, while U.S. and allied restrictions force redesigns of cloud AI infrastructure, slowing global competitiveness but boosting Chinese self-reliance. China's AI startup boom. Based on research by China AI Report 2025, domestic AI startups in China grew by 32% in 1 year following U.S. export controls. Startups focused on optimizing algorithms to reduce reliance on imported GPUs, reflecting adaptive innovation under sanctions. Smuggling and illegal channels. According to U.S. Department of Commerce filings, dozens of shipments of high-performance AI chips to China in 2025 were flagged as potential violations. Investigations revealed companies used transshipment hubs in Singapore and Malaysia to bypass export controls, highlighting enforcement challenges in globalized supply chains. Global AI market shifts. Based on data from McKinsey Technology Review 2025, AI chip market share shifted dramatically due to sanctions. U.S. firms lost direct sales to China, while South Korea and Taiwan captured higher regional demand. The report notes a 12% increase in regional revenue for non-U.S. suppliers, filling the gap left by sanctions. Ethical concerns in AI warfare. According to Unidir 2025, limiting AI chip access is intended to prevent misuse in autonomous weapons, which could make life-or-death decisions without human oversight. Experts warn that uncontrolled proliferation risks accidental conflicts and raises urgent ethical dilemmas for states and corporations alike. Economic pressure as leverage. Former U.S. Ambassador to China, Terry Branstad, stated on February 11, 2018, that technology sanctions serve as a strategic economic weapon, influencing competitors' behavior without military engagement. The AI sanctions extend this principle, targeting critical supply chains to slow adversary development. Civilian AI and collateral impact. According to MIT Technology Review, sanctions also affect civilian sectors reliant on AI, including healthcare and autonomous logistics. Companies in China report delays in deploying AI systems for medical diagnostics due to restricted access to high-performance chips, demonstrating unintended consequences of geopolitical policy. Research and development surge. Based on China AI Report 2025, domestic R&D investment in AI chips surged 42% after U.S. export controls. Universities and startups prioritized algorithm optimization and local chip fabrication, signaling that sanctions can accelerate independent innovation, not just slow progress. International alliances in AI. According to Brookings Institution 2025, U.S. allies are increasingly part of AI governance and supply chain coordination. Export control compliance now requires coordination with Japan, South Korea, and EU nations, reflecting how AI sanctions have become instruments not only of unilateral policy, but also coalition enforcement. Global chip production statistics. According to Statista 2025, the global production of AI-optimized GPUs reached 1.8 million units, with the US producing 65%, Taiwan 20%, and China only 5% due to export restrictions. Analysts note that this distribution demonstrates how sanctions directly limit adversary access to cutting-edge compute resources. Military AI dependence. Based on research by CNAS 2025, modern militaries rely on AI chips for autonomous drones, satellite intelligence, and predictive logistics. The US believes controlling chip supply to rivals reduces their capacity to deploy AI-enabled weapon systems, effectively shaping global security dynamics. Chinese domestic manufacturing boost. According to ID TechX 2025, China's domestic semiconductor production increased 38% in 1 year following US export controls. Investments in SMIC and other fabs enabled China to locally produce AI chips capable of 70 to 80% of Western performance, highlighting accelerated self-reliance. Corporate strategy adjustments. According to Reuters 2025, US companies like Nvidia and AMD adjusted strategy, limiting Chinese sales, while promoting AI cloud services to compliant regions. This reshaped revenue streams and increased dependence on allies, illustrating the economic ripple effects of AI sanctions. Enforcement and legal cases. Based on U.S. Department of Commerce reports, over 50 cases of attempted illegal exports of AI chips to restricted nations were investigated in 2025. Companies faced fines up to $50 million, highlighting the seriousness of sanctions enforcement and the global stakes involved in AI control. AI arms race intensifies. The U.S. export restrictions accelerated China's focus on AI research and military applications. Analysts note Beijing prioritized algorithm efficiency and high-performance computing to reduce reliance on foreign chips. This race within a race shows sanctions can unintentionally spur innovation even under restrictive conditions. Civilian sector impact. Hospitals and logistics companies in China reported delays deploying AI-driven systems due to limited GPU access. MIT Technology Review highlighted that these sanctions, while targeting military applications, indirectly slowed civilian AI adoption, showing economic pressure can have wide-reaching collateral effects. Strategic alliances strengthen. Coordination with Japan, South Korea, and the EU ensures that AI export controls are enforced collectively. Brookings Institution reports this alliance approach makes it harder for restricted nations to circumvent controls while creating an informal coalition shaping global AI governance. Smuggling and evasion techniques. Investigations reveal companies used cloud computing hubs in Singapore and Malaysia to process restricted AI workloads. Commerce Department findings confirm that enforcement struggles persist, as tech firms attempt indirect access, showing sanctions are not absolute barriers but influence strategies and behaviors globally. Domestic innovation surge. China's AI startups increased algorithm-focused research to compensate for hardware limits, achieving notable performance gains despite chip restrictions. ID TechX data shows domestic investment surged by 42% in 2025, reflecting how sanctions can paradoxically drive rapid localized innovation. Ethical dilemmas in AI deployment. Limiting access to advanced AI chips is intended to reduce the risk of autonomous weapons being used irresponsibly. Unidir Research notes that unregulated AI in military operations could make lethal decisions without human oversight, raising profound ethical concerns for states and corporations alike. Economic leverage in practice. Former U.S. Ambassador Terry Branstad explained that technology sanctions act as economic tools to shape rivals' behavior. AI sanctions exemplify this principle. using supply chain control to influence strategic decision-making without engaging in direct military conflict. Civilian innovation costs. MIT Technology Review reports that Chinese healthcare and logistics sectors face delays in AI deployment due to restricted access to high-performance chips. Even as the measures target military and strategic applications, civilian industries felt unintended economic consequences. National security and AI dependence. CNAS analysts highlight that AI capabilities underpin modern national defense. Controlling the distribution of high-end AI chips gives the U.S. leverage over potential adversaries' ability to deploy predictive logistics, surveillance, and autonomous systems in military contexts. Global market shifts. McKinsey data shows that U.S. sanctions shifted AI chip demand to South Korea, Taiwan, and EU countries. While U.S. companies lost revenue from China, non-U.S. suppliers captured new markets, illustrating that sanctions reshape global tech supply chains, not just national capabilities. Huawei and domestic AI growth. Huawei redirected AI development to domestic chips after U.S. sanctions. South China Morning Post reports the company invested heavily in SMIC and local AI infrastructure, ensuring research continuity while circumventing foreign restrictions, demonstrating how sanctions drove localized corporate innovation. Chinese startups adapt. Research from China AI Report 2025 shows domestic AI startups grew by 32% post-sanctions, focusing on algorithm efficiency to reduce hardware dependency. These startups rapidly optimized models, proving that limitations on hardware encourage software innovation rather than stifling progress. Smuggling and enforcement challenges. Investigations by the U.S. Department of Commerce found transshipments through Singapore and Malaysia, with restricted AI chips indirectly reaching China. These loopholes highlight enforcement difficulties in globalized supply chains and demonstrate how firms creatively navigate sanctions. AI research funding surge. IDTechX reports that Chinese government funding for AI research increased by 42% in 2025 due to export restrictions. Universities and private labs accelerated projects in chip design and software optimization, illustrating how sanctions inadvertently boosted local R&D capabilities. Civilian sector strain. MIT Technology Review notes that AI applications in healthcare and logistics slowed in China due to chip shortages. Hospitals and autonomous delivery firms face delays, showing that economic sanctions aimed at strategic rivals also generate significant civilian impacts. Strengthening international AI coalitions. Brookings Institution reports that the U.S. coordinated with allies like Japan, South Korea, and the EU to enforce AI chip restrictions. This collective approach ensures broader compliance, making it harder for restricted nations to bypass sanctions while creating a coalition shaping global AI governance. Smuggling networks and enforcement gaps. Commerce Department investigations reveal companies used cloud computing hubs in Singapore and Malaysia to process restricted AI workloads. These indirect methods expose gaps in enforcement, highlighting that sanctions influence strategy rather than fully preventing access. Military AI dependency. CNAS research shows modern militaries increasingly rely on AI chips for drones, satellite intelligence, and predictive logistics. By limiting advanced chip exports, the U.S. aims to constrain adversaries' military AI capabilities, demonstrating the strategic dimension of AI sanctions. Corporate strategy adjustments. Reuters reports that U.S. chipmakers like NVIDIA and AMD restricted Chinese sales while expanding cloud services in compliant regions. This shift reshaped revenue streams, increased reliance on allies, and illustrates how companies adapt to geopolitical controls on technology. Market share realignment. McKinsey data indicates U.S. sanctions shifted AI chip demand to Taiwan, South Korea, and Europe. Non-U.S. suppliers captured increased market share, showing that sanctions redistribute global supply rather than fully halting access, impacting the international competitive landscape. Ethical risks of autonomous AI. Unidir research warns that limiting AI chips aims to reduce autonomous weapons misuse, yet the pace of AI development risks accidental conflicts. Military AI systems making decisions without human oversight present unprecedented ethical dilemmas, raising questions about accountability and international norms. Civilian industry impact. MIT Technology Review notes that healthcare, logistics, and finance sectors in China experience delays deploying AI due to restricted GPU access. Even though sanctions target military and strategic applications, civilian industries bear unintended consequences, highlighting the broader economic ripple effects. Strategic leverage via technology. Former U.S. Ambassador Terry Branstad emphasized in 2018 that tech sanctions shape adversary behavior economically. AI chip restrictions apply this principle globally, using supply chain control to influence policy and development without direct military engagement, showing the subtle power of economic tools. National security dependencies. CNAS analysis indicates that AI capabilities underpin modern defense systems. Controlling access to high-performance chips provides the U.S. leverage over adversaries' ability to deploy predictive logistics, surveillance, and autonomous systems, directly affecting national security calculations. Redistribution of global AI markets. According to McKinsey, U.S. export controls shifted AI chip demand to Taiwan, South Korea, and Europe. While U.S. companies lost Chinese revenue, non-U.S. suppliers gained market share, showing sanctions not only restrict adversaries but also reshape global supply chains and competitive dynamics. Huawei's domestic AI pivot. South China Morning Post reports that Huawei intensified investment in domestic chip production after U.S. sanctions, collaborating with SMIC and local AI infrastructure projects. This pivot ensured continuity in AI research and highlights how sanctions accelerated Chinese self-reliance in strategic technology. Startup innovation under pressure. According to China AI Report 2025, domestic AI startups grew by 32% following export restrictions, focusing on algorithm optimization to reduce dependence on imported GPUs. These startups demonstrate that sanctions, while restrictive, can catalyze rapid software innovation. Smuggling and loopholes. U.S. Department of Commerce investigations revealed that some restricted AI chips reached China via cloud services in Singapore and Malaysia. These workarounds illustrate enforcement challenges and show that sanctions shape behavior rather than completely block access to technology. Government R&D boost. ID TechX reports that China's AI research funding increased by 42% in 2025 due to export restrictions. Universities and private labs accelerated chip and algorithm projects, demonstrating how sanctions unintentionally spurred domestic R&D and innovation ecosystems. Civilian consequences. MIT Technology Review notes that AI deployment in healthcare and logistics slowed in China due to restricted GPU access. Hospitals and delivery companies faced operational delays, showing that sanctions intended for strategic competition also produce civilian economic impacts. Global AI alliances strengthen. Brookings Institution reports that US, Japan, South Korea, and EU coordination ensures enforcement of AI export controls. This coalition reduces the likelihood of circumvention, showing that AI sanctions are not only unilateral but also a tool of multilateral strategic influence. Smuggling and evasion. Investigations by the U.S. Commerce Department reveal restricted AI chips reaching China through cloud services in Singapore and Malaysia. These indirect methods highlight that sanctions influence corporate behavior but do not fully block access, showing enforcement challenges in a globalized supply chain. Military AI dependence. CNAS research indicates modern militaries rely on AI chips for autonomous drones, satellite intelligence, and predictive logistics. Limiting access constrains adversaries' ability to deploy AI-enabled systems, illustrating the strategic use of economic tools to shape defense capabilities. Corporate adaptation. Reuters reports that U.S. chipmakers like NVIDIA and AMD limited Chinese sales while promoting AI cloud services in allied regions. This strategy reshaped revenue streams, demonstrating how companies adapt to geopolitical restrictions while maintaining global competitiveness. Market share reallocation. McKinsey data shows U.S. sanctions shifted AI chip demand to Taiwan, South Korea, and Europe. Non-U.S. suppliers captured increased market share, illustrating that sanctions redistribute global technology markets and influence competitive dynamics rather than simply blocking access. Ethical dilemmas intensify. Unidir research warns that restricting AI chips aims to prevent autonomous weapons misuse. Yet, the rapid development of AI creates risks of accidental conflict. Systems capable of lethal decisions without human oversight pose unprecedented ethical challenges for nations and corporations worldwide. Civilian sector pressures. MIT Technology Review notes that healthcare, finance, and logistics in China faced AI deployment delays due to GPU shortages. Even though sanctions target military applications, civilian industries experience unintended economic consequences, highlighting the broad impact of technology restrictions. National security leverage. CNAS analysts highlight that AI underpins modern defense systems. Controlling access to high-performance chips gives the U.S. leverage over adversaries' predictive logistics, surveillance, and autonomous systems, directly affecting strategic military balance and global security calculations. Global market reconfiguration. McKinsey reports that U.S. sanctions shifted AI chip demand to Taiwan, South Korea, and Europe. While U.S. companies lost direct sales to China, non-U.S. suppliers gained market share. This demonstrates that sanctions not only restrict competitors but also reshape international technology and supply chain dynamics. The AI sanctions era illustrates how technology, economics, and geopolitics intersect. From ethical debates to market shifts, the stakes are global. If you found these insights compelling, subscribe to stay updated on AI's impact on the world and join the discussion about technology, power, and innovation.